Good evening, everyone. How are we doing? My name is Nick Lane. I work for Mobilesquared. We are business messaging analyst specialists, and I am your host and moderator for the next hour or so as we explore RCS 360. We've got 6 panelists with me joining on the stage, 6 experts, and they're going to be sharing their views. But what we're going to do is we're going to pretend that RCS is brand new. So we're not going to look at old issues. We're not going to look at what's happened with operators, why RCS has been around for so long, why certain things have happened. What we're just going to do is look from today and look at the future. How are we going to grow RCS? How is it going to become the biggest rich messaging platform in the world? That is what we're going to explore. We're going to break it up into the first session looking at what's the role of mobile operators. Then we'll have a little period for any questions. So please, if you have a question, please go to one of the mics here. You might think you have a really loud, booming voice, but this is being recorded, and we want to get your question on the recording as well. So you please go to one of these mics. Second session is then looking at what can we do to speed the adoption up of RCS. What can we do in terms of brands? What is there that, as an industry, we can do to make this platform really come alive? So, without further ado, I'd like to invite the first panelist up. So it's Craig from Google. Come up, Craig. Come on up. Okay, Carlos from Mavenir. Come on up. Quite a greeting, isn't it? Okay, next up, Marcus from Telefónica. Welcome. Ramy from Cisco. Welcome to the stage. We have Matija from Infobip. Hello, sir. How do you? And we have Catherine from BT. Come on up. Welcome. Six people. Right, are we ready? How are you all doing?
Very well.
Great. Okay. Tough crowd. Right, okay. So let's get the first thing. So we don't want to go over old news, okay? We just want to kind of look at where we are today with RCS and what we expect. So let's start with Ramy. First question for you. Just to kind of set the scene, you're at a dinner party. Someone who you don't know says, "What do you do?" And you mention RCS. How do you then explain what RCS is to that person?
I think RCS is the easiest way to explain it. It's the evolution of SMS. It is the next generation of messaging on your device.
Okay. Simple as that. And yet the progression to get to there hasn't been as simple. But we're not talking about the past, obviously. So we're not going to go there. So, okay, so in terms of where we are then, we are, from our side, obviously talking to the industry, starting to see a lot of really encouraging signs about RCS and what is going to happen in 2022. So, Matija, I hope I'm saying your name correctly.
Yes, correct.
Can I call you Matt?
Sure, no problems. Yeah.
What do you expect for 2022 with RCS?
Before that, I would like to answer that first question that you asked him, because I actually was in that situation just a couple of days back. And I tried to explain, and then this guy said, "Oh, that's like iMessage." And I said, "Yeah, basically that's it. But iMessage is on Apple, and RCS is on everybody else. It's for like all the Androids." So that's, I would say, a relatively easy explanation, because people do not understand that RCS they already have embedded in their phones.
But also they recognize Apple's messaging brand, which is interesting.
They do because they use it, especially in developed countries. It's quite common, I would say.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right, back to your question.
So where do I see it? In this year and next year? I do think that what we need with RCS is to, let's say, develop it on the P2P side, to see the actual users use it while they are communicating between themselves. And this needs to be seamless in a sense that I want to send you a message, I want to send you a video, message or picture, and it needs to be seamless. Like I'm doing it on WhatsApp or I'm doing it on iMessage. If we get to that point, I think RCS will be very successful technology. But that needs to be simple, without any kind of activations and complications that currently we have.
So you're saying there are hurdles, lots of hurdles that still remain. So what are those hurdles? Marcus, Carlos, what needs to be done then to make sure that by the end of this year, RCS
How much time do we have? Because it's going to be a long list.
Well, you've got 25 minutes to answer that question.
You want to start?
Okay, so from our perspective, or Telefónica Group perspective, we have launched RCS in our 5 main countries. No? The first thing, I believe, to have a successful launch of RCS is to have the interoperability ready. No? You need to resolve all the problems, to interconnect the different networks, to have the whole coverage, because at the end the brands want to deliver traffic in a whole country. This is the main point for us now. Now we are thinking for this year, our main objective will be to try to push the brands to adopt RCS. No? We launched many trials, but the blocking points now is to try to push all the brands to adopt this channel, no, in the natural businesses.
I'm going to summarize it in 4 big points. Education. Those are the 4 hurdles. What we're seeing in the market out there, we're seeing it internally in operators when we deal with Telefónica, education internally. You know that, you agree with me, Catherine, on that front. You have to educate the entire organization, not just the messaging guys, not just the wholesale guys, but everybody, marketing, product, to leverage that tool to promote internally within the company, and BT is doing it already very, very heavily. We saw it yesterday on those panels. By promoting your own services, Telefónica also did the same thing. In the last Christmas season, you guys were doing the Disney Plus campaign to try and let people know that in their TV package, you could, I mean, you had a Disney Plus subscription and people were not activating it. But you also have to do a little bit of an exercise of running those internal campaigns and turning them into a testimonial to show those brands how much more engaging it is, how much return of investment they can get. We're going to have to do an exercise of quantifying that so that we can put it in front of their marketing officers and ask them for that budget and then start to kind of get the ball running.
Okay, let's not look at the brands just yet. Let's try and keep it more at where we are in terms of maybe with operators. So Catherine, you're an operator. How are you finding RCS today?
Well, I mean, I've been in BT now for around 8 months, and there's quite a lot of very encouraging signs. I completely agree with Carlos that it's not just about looking at the messaging team understanding it, so I've been making a concerted effort to speak to other departments, use opportunities like, I'm sure you're maybe doing that in Telefónica as well, all staff meetings to present and explain the opportunity, because the education piece is fundamental to its success. I think things like the competition we're doing in the UK, which kicks off next week, where we're going to have campaigns, a Dragon's Den sort of style competition, and select some campaigns that will be rolled out and have PR surrounding them and case studies, will make a big difference, because it is seeing those. I think even from working on the aggregator side of things, people just want to see the bottom line, how they're going to make money or save money on this, and once they start seeing real commercial campaigns, I think that we will. I mean, you can see, I was actually talking to Alexander from one of the French operators earlier today, and he's talking about, you know, they've got quite a few campaigns in country now, and I think the UK will be there, I think, quite shortly, maybe 3 months or so, and we should. And there's a lot of work to be done, but there's a lot to be thankful for in terms of how far we've come in the last year. I mean, I think at the beginning of the pandemic, we had maybe 10% coverage in the UK, and now we're up to 20%, and I think we should be about 30% by the end of this year. And that's a massive step towards getting brands' eyeballs on the RCS campaign and getting consumers engaging with the service.
So what lessons can you give to an operator that's sitting in the room thinking, right, okay, so RCS is live in the country, thanks to Google. If we want to monetize that, how would we potentially do that? What kind of lessons do you think that you can provide to an operator listening?
I think one of the key things I would say is collaborate with the other MNOs that you have in country, try and align and have a homogenous service in as many ways as possible, because WhatsApp for Business is, you can set up a campaign quickly on that. There isn't lots of hoops to be jumped through and different operators to deal with, and I think that's something that we've learned. You know, we see markets that are doing really well, they have collaborated. And even things like, weirdly, in France, all opticians are now using RCS, which is really interesting because they've found a niche brand market that can really work out, and then obviously that'll move into other paradigms as well, and it's just interesting to see. Indeed, one of our partners has actually just done a campaign with Specsavers in the UK, so you can see once we get one campaign out there, it trickles down, and lots of the use cases, people have the eureka moment where they see the use cases. And also, I think to move it forward, I actually probably disagree slightly with it being described as an upgrade to SMS only, because I think if I was at a dinner party, and actually I have bored people with this content at dinner parties before, I would say that it's a way to reach consumers and get lots of eyeballs on a campaign and not have to download an app and use it in that way rather than just a slightly more exciting text message, because there's so much more to it than that in terms of targeted marketing, affiliate campaigns with customers' needs, and everything that we can see. We're on the tipping point of the features that can be used, and there's so much further to go. And chatbot directories, I think, will be a major thing in the coming year as well, to get a whole different audience looking at fresh content within the RCS channel and the messaging channel.
Okay, we'll come on to that. So, Craig, from your position in Google, I mean, what kind of conversations are you now having with operators? Is it a case that you're having more and more discussions because they're now actually starting to see the benefits of RCS, or is it still quite a hard sell?
That's exactly right. I think what's so exciting about this discussion is, and this varies in different markets of the world, but there's a spectrum of what, as Matija was saying, what needs to happen from a user experience, from fulfilling that rich user experience promise to the user, so that they, on conversations with their friends and family, are getting the promise of the RCS service. And what we're actually talking about now is we're getting to a point where that experience is being delivered, and what we're really talking about now is how do we then allow this to become a rich enterprise experience, and some of the lessons Catherine has, and bringing all of that to bear, and to have so many great stakeholders and partners like investing in that way, looking at those user experiences, figuring out what makes sense. I think that's what's so exciting to me, is because we are now living up to the promise that we've made to end users from a interpersonal relationship, but also from an enterprise.
What about in terms of the potential threat of cannibalization? Because we often get told or get asked from operators about what's the impact, not just of WhatsApp, but of RCS on A2P SMS revenues. So from our side, we've just seen A2P SMS grow and flourish. We see this is actually the beginning of the messaging rule moving forward, as brands look to invest a lot of money moving forward. But one of the things that carriers are worried about is even with RCS, because obviously with SMS you get to pretty much keep the majority of the cost per message. In RCS you've got to share a bit more. There are costs involved in that. So from an operator side of things, this has got to have some kind of bearing on where you're going, certainly with the modeling as you move forward. So, Marcus, kind of what's your thoughts around that?
I believe that you cannot expect to have a seamless transfer from SMS to RCS. RCS is completely different from the SMS. No, we are talking about another type of use cases. In fact, we have many conversations with brands, and if you try to convince them to move their current business from SMS to RCS, you will have problems. You need to open new work streams, new use cases, use cases based on the engagement instead of in the interaction with the end customers. I believe this is the key. We need to open new revenue streams, creating a new use cases, based on the engagement, the customer engagement.
Okay, so Matija and Ramy, in terms of the conversations you're having then around cost, what are the conversations you're having? Firstly, kind of at one end with the operator, and the other end with the enterprise. Because obviously the issue I have personally, and it's obviously something that you've mentioned, is that RCS is not SMS. This is a digital service. It's a digital platform. You're going from analog to digital, and it's a case of you either buy a standard Audi, or you buy an RS8 or RS6 or whatever. That's basically kind of the jump that you're going from. And Audi doesn't charge the same regardless of which model of car you're going for. But as an industry, this is what we're doing. It doesn't make any sense. So, how are we going to move this forward?
So, if I can start with this. Basically, I think you are completely right. I mean, we are comparing completely different services. And I don't think that RCS will replace SMS or SMS will replace RCS. There are certain use cases that can be done perfectly through SMS, and they are being done already. And I don't think we should change there or anything, because I don't think it really makes sense, to create and invest a lot of money in RCS service, in RCS server, in education of customers, in new mobile phones, and then send one-time pins on RCS. Yeah. What did we get with that? I mean, no point in it. But on the other side, if we develop new services, conversational-like services where we share videos and I don't know, let's say one simple service would be customer experience, customer engagement. When you're talking with the agent on the other side, you can share, I don't know, different types of videos, pictures, chat, and stuff like that. And then if you adjust pricing to that conversational-like communication, then you are creating a new use case which someone would pay more. They will not compare this with SMS, because SMS is 160 characters and this is what they get. And even reply is, in most of the cases, quite hard. On RCS, it's a completely different story. But of course, you have to charge it more, and you are selling it for more. We managed to charge it more currently in some of the markets where we have this live. And it was never a question about the pricing. The question was always about the actual reach of the customers. So how much customers you can reach with that service.
But again, that's probably wrong, surely. Because with Twitter, this is the case always, and somebody really pointed this out to me a year or two ago, and it's a brilliant point. In the US, I think the largest Twitter following for any brand is about 12 million people. And yet we did a survey, admittedly it's only on LinkedIn, asking brands, how many people do you need to have on RCS before you take it seriously? And they said 100 million. They're like, well, come on, be realistic here. Because I know we're talking two different things here, but actually if you started building a following, a digital following, a social following on RCS with RBM as a brand, which you can do, then you'll start to get subscribers, and it's a different model altogether. But we've been waiting for a long time to get the scale, but we don't need the scale because the level of engagement is so superior to something like SMS, and obviously the level of engagement on SMS is so superior to pretty much any other kind of medium that's out there anyway. So I don't believe that. I think that it's a mindset thing that we've got to change, and it's not scale, it's engagement, because with engagement, more brands will start investing in it, and the scale's going to come.
So,
sure.
Nick, if one of our large U.S. customers has a very successful SMS program, and when we talked to them first about RCS, they're like, but our SMS program works. Why do we need to change anything? And then we started implementing RCS with them, and one of the first things is there was a tap to yes instead of typing the user YES. And it generated a huge uplift in a very successful SMS program. They couldn't believe themselves. And now they're saying, well, if this was the experience lift that we got just by changing the opt-in from typing yes to tapping yes, then how fast can we move the rest of our programs to RCS? It doesn't get 100% coverage of all their customers because they have iPhones, they have users that are using all kinds of devices, but the majority of people that they could reach on RCS with the reach that we have in the US, they were very happy with the results. Now, if we tell them that this is going to charge a little bit more, they won't be opposed to it because they saw the success it brought to their programs. But I think there's also a misconception trying to scare brands away. This is going to be a different pricing model, and they don't know what they don't know because there hasn't been any public disclosure of how much RCS is going to cost outside of the UK. So they're worried, it's like, how do we budget for it? Is it going to be similar to WhatsApp? Is it going to be completely different? Is it going to be a multiple of SMS? We don't know. And us as aggregators, we can't answer that because there hasn't been that discussion going on in these markets. I think also the big thing from an enterprise perspective is each enterprise is different. They know, the enterprise knows their demographics. They know if they're iPhone heavy or not. A lot of brands know that we're iPhone heavy, so RCS is really not going to make an impact on our programs because our demographic is different. Same thing for operators. Operators are great enterprises because they know their demographic, they know their customers, they know what the devices are. So I'll use a recent example, the Galaxy launch, the S22, you're targeting Android users upgrading to the latest Samsung devices, so why not use RCS to target these users to promote the new device launches? So you need a little bit of market intelligence of what your demographics are and how to attract the users. Once you launch with an RCS experience, your consumers love it, they like using it, and it's very intuitive to tap, and you don't need a lot of education.
Okay. Craig, from Google's side, because obviously Google's well known in the search arena, and obviously you work with a load of brands, so surely Google is very well placed to help drive RCS forward.
Yep.
So how, is there a plan, a strategy to kind of move things along, or is it more a case of let these guys do it? Because, I guess in terms of names of companies, obviously, Cisco's global, Infobip is global, but obviously within a kind of a more of a business environment, and obviously Google's known by pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
So, if Google came knocking on the door, then probably more doors would open.
Yeah, so I think it's a fair point. What I would say is what we're very good at is user intent and discovery, and what the folks here are very good at is that conversational commerce function, right? Like I think we're good at a lot of things. We have a wonderful client that users love. We have great infrastructure that that we can bring to bear for our partners. But when it comes to the conversational commerce flows, I think there are a lot of folks on this stage who know better than us, and it is very much our strategy to work with the ecosystem of partners to be able to bring that to bear for commercial use cases, but even support use cases. And I think that's where it takes kind of the partnerships to make this happen. I think Google has the things that we do well that we can bring to this, and we try and shine light on that. But I think in cases like conversational commerce, you're talking about some very big businesses here who run that as a business, and we need to support them.
Just exploring on that a bit further. So from the P2A side, because that, from our perspective, I'm sure from your perspective, ultimately this is going to be what's going to make this market enormous. So, what do you need from the P2A side as you look to develop it as an operator, as you push it out to your aggregator partners and to their customers?
I think it's a massive part of the education piece. Like, we want to be able to I think it's not even going to be a revenue driver so much in the beginning, but that it will have customers engaging with the channel in a much more natural way. And it will, if anybody goes on to their supermarket or a clothing brand, anything, and they can interact with an RCS conversation, it's going to be a natural challenge to them that they understand. And I think that's something we really want to roll out quite quickly. I'm quite shocked that it hasn't been rolled out more significantly than it is now, because WhatsApp is all over it, and it's something that we definitely want to do in BT, and we're working with Google to try and achieve that. I think that's fair to say. And yeah, it's definitely. And I read your very statistics on the subject, and also it's going to move into the chatbot directory side as well, because you could obviously deep link into chatbot directories, and again, that's a massive opportunity, and ties into what I said before about when we used to always see that graphic of an SMS and then an RCS beside it, and I've scrapped that from everything now because it just makes a brand think that that's what they're being sold, and it's just bad psychology, because it's so much more than that for things like P2A and what you've described.
Sure. So on the P2A side, where are we in terms of chatbot directories? Is this, because obviously Vodafone have rolled theirs out, and I believe they've seen some quite significant numbers and some good return on users. What else is happening in terms of the P2A and chatbot directory side? Who wants to talk about that?
I don't mind doing it again, just because it's something I've been looking at quite closely recently. The short answer, Nick, is that it's happening, and I think the UK operators, I can't obviously speak for the rest of them, but I know they're all interested in it, and it's something that we want to achieve. And I think there's definitely been more of a focus in the last, few months in BT on looking at deep linking and chatbot directories away from traditional just A2P SMS uplift. So I think that answers your question.
I would just add that I think these are important questions. As I was saying before, these are important questions to ask at this stage.
Yeah.
I think we look at kind of the development of any feature of the service as something that its time comes, and we see some features that we've worked on, at least on the Google side, around end-to-end encryption, reactions, things that when launched reach hundreds of millions of subscribers instantly. As things that really benefit and, again, deliver on that user promise. But to Catherine's point, like, we're getting to a point where that business engagement is an increasing priority because of the scale that we have, because of the reach, because of the richness. This is now an appropriate place to be looking to make those kinds of investments.
Okay, sure. Anyone?
And also, I think we need to look at also the landscape around RCS. So if you look at on your phone, there needs to be a way for users to start discovering and talking to businesses like they would do on other channels like WhatsApp, like Google Business Messages, like on an iPhone and Apple Business Chat. They're all opening up the channels or the entry points so that a user can come in and say, Nick, I want to talk to you. Can I reach out to you? And the directory is one of these places that users, enterprises will be able to say, we're here, come talk to us. But it also attracts a different type of enterprises or a different type of content providers to come to that directory to show their content there. That is not, they don't have opted-in databases, they don't do A2P SMS, but that will open to different type of businesses also to be available for consumers to talk to them.
Sure. Okay.
But I think this directory should be connected with some way like applications like Google Maps, for example. Yeah. So if you find something on Google Maps, just chat with him or communicate with this enterprise. This is something that is currently missing. I think you have something on the SMS side like that, on the voice side, but maybe on the RBM side would also be an interesting option. And then you actually don't need a proper directory. You actually have it already there.
Okay.
I just wanted to add, because Catherine already mentioned it, the part about the deep linking, it's critical, and that's the part where we need the help of Google, the deep linking on the client itself. Because if there's something that the pandemic has taught us and has kind of done a great favor for everybody here, is that every single person in the world now knows how to use a QR code.
Yeah, it was a big
year. You can put a deep link on a QR code. You can put that QR code on your van, on your store, on your pamphlets, anything you do, and that QR code can take people to your RCS channel.
Yeah.
Very easily. So besides the chatbot directory, which of course would be a good way to do it, besides the Google Maps thing, besides being able to discover in those digital channels, that deep link with that QR code brings that into the physical world, which is really, really valuable. So we just need to make all of these things work together as an ecosystem.
And I know that sorry to interrupt, I know that in Deutsche Telekom, they've started doing that for lots of campaigns. They've got things on like bus shelters, and you just click it and it's an RCS, and you just engage with an RCS. And as you say, QR codes are simple, like everyone knows now, and it's just such an easy win for us to get engagement on the channel.
I think going back to the earlier point around cannibalization, I think you used that term. A stat we saw in some of the sessions we had yesterday was around 5% of businesses use the
SMS.
Use SMS or use a conversational service. And I think these are the types of features that could move away from any kind of loss conversations to incremental businesses. There are clearly businesses that the channel's not rich enough, this might be, and so how do we turn that 5% to 10%, 15%? And I think these are all the technical features that kind of start to tap into that.
Well, the obvious one is CPaaS, and I think we've all done really well, almost half an hour, no one's mentioned CPaaS, so congratulations. But that seems to be potentially something that will really kind of grow, and where RCS will kind of get sucked into that wave of activity, because 5% of businesses use SMS. There's more that use WhatsApp, because obviously WhatsApp's in terms of the app, the free app, because obviously there's about 65 million companies that are using it. But beyond that, a lot of these companies will be marketing one way or another. They could be using something local on Facebook or Google, or just something very small with a small budget, but they're spending money. And the chances are they're spending money because and they don't know how powerful messaging could potentially be, But if CPaaS is starting to bring all of these channels together, you know, that in itself will probably start to educate them, and that will then present an opportunity where they'll start to realize that there are other things out there that they could potentially use. And for an operator, so we've gone full circle, you know, is CPaaS a really good opportunity for you? Is it something that you're potentially exploring?
Yes, from our part, we believe that with CPaaS we have two different markets. No, we could talk about CPaaS to resell as a platform to enterprises, but at the same time we can see as CPaaS to put our service, our connection service on top of this, no, to sell voice, to sell SMS, to promote OTT as well. Why not? No, in order to offer to our B2C customers different channels to interact with the operators. And then, from our part, we are exploring both segments, no? And we believe in the B2B segment there are a lot of money, no? Because at the end there are many things to do because we need to resolve, no, the mesh. No? There are many legacy IT systems, and we need to connect all of these systems from operation, from marketing, from customer care with the many channels. No? Today you are using WhatsApp to interact with your friends, maybe you are using, I don't know, Webex or Team in your enterprise, and then you are using SMS to receive a OTP message. No? So I believe that is a huge opportunity for operators to cover this part.
Okay. Do you want to add anything?
I know we're quite short on time, just reiterating everything that was said, but I think we can see in geographies where things have moved along a bit faster than some of the European countries that it has become a CPaaS environment for campaigns. And I know that Infobip has done some amazing things in LATAM in that regard, and you know there's absolutely no reason why it can't happen in our markets, and we can have campaigns that are suitable across different technologies, and it's definitely something that is being discussed more in BT as well.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions? To the mic, please, sir.
Yeah. My name is Alfredo Jones. I work for a company called Movitex, which is a A2P SMS aggregator in Central America in 6 countries. We are connected to 18 carriers. And sorry, I need to tell a story about what you have done.
I'm listening. I'm just.
Yeah. So we went to several GSM congresses where we saw those presentations on RCS. We saw that beautiful map that you have, the dynamic map. Yeah, that every half year it was evolving, and we were going to have thousands of carriers with RCS. So we went to the carriers we are connected to and we say, well, can we show RCS to our clients? And say, yes, that's a good idea. We built client service applications, banking client service applications. We built for our banks that are clients. We built client service applications for our retailers. And even those food delivery companies, we showed that, and they love it, right? They say, we want it. We went to the carriers, and well, we are still waiting for the product at this moment, right? So my question is there any chance that we can see, say, in that Latin America countries, the product, the RCS products available for us to sell those applications, those messages to our clients? That's my question.
And let me try to explain our situation in LATAM. No, today we have two countries, Brazil and Mexico. And I can say you, for example, in Brazil, only in Vivo, we have close to 5 million active users today. So it's a very good market, no, for RCS. In Mexico, I believe that we have the whole country, we have coverage. We covered the whole country in Brazil and Mexico. I believe Mexico is pending AT&T. I'm not sure, but they are finalizing the agreement with Google, and we hope to have on board this operator in the following months. Regarding the rest of the region, We are working with all of our properties there, and our expectation is to have all of Telefónica operators ready before the end of this year, or maybe in the first quarter of 2023. So for us, we are trying to speed up as much as possible the RCS adoption in this region. For us, the numbers that we are having in Mexico and Brazil are extremely good in terms of conversion, open rate, and so on. We launched many trials in Mexico, promoting devices, promoting data plans, and many other accessories, and we got an amazing results. So my recommendation is, we know that we are not at a good, traction at the beginning, but now we hope to have a very good results during this year. So,
and I think you can see the same from most of the operators in LATAM, and even the ones that haven't launched the service themselves. Google has been launching a lot of the service in LATAM. There is good coverage. There's countries that have over 50% penetration of RCS, and there are campaigns running in these markets from enterprises and from operators to their customers that are doing really well.
The penetration of Android in this region are really, really good, as Ramy said. So we hope to have revenues and monetize this channel in the following months.
Right, we're running out of time, but we do have time for one more question. Tim.
I think we've got two more questions, actually.
Okay.
I'm going to ask a quick one. I'm Tim from Mobile Ecosystem Forum. You've kind of touched on this already, but I just wanted to ask again. How much of the issue around RCS is kind of branding and identification issue? So obviously for 20 years, everybody knows what SMS is. All the punters know how it works. They make a conscious decision to download WhatsApp or Viber or whatever, whereas RCS just kind of appears on their phone. They might not know what it is, they might not appreciate it, and the same for the brands. So I just wonder, is there a need to kind of market RCS as a thing? And if there is RCS the right word to use, and who needs to do it?
Well, I don't mind chipping in to begin with. No, RCS isn't the right term. It stands for rich community. It's just a standard name that's sort of fallen into common parlance in the industry, but no one knows what it is, outside of this room, and probably some of the people are only hearing about it today. But I think we overlook the fact that with this market, and that there is nothing the customer has to do to engage with an RCS experience. Like, they don't have to download anything. It's there. I think the education piece is still huge in terms of sort of interacting with the channel and finding ways to get customers to really, really engage with it. They're going to be exciting to them. Is part of the education piece. I think the naming thing is a difficult one to answer, but I think a lot of countries are now just going for chat or something pithy like that doesn't really, align to say what the features are, but at least as a name beyond RCS. But I think it's not as difficult to market as an app, but we need to make sure that there's education, and that's something that we're trying to do in the UK market with the other MNOs at present.
Got to be quick, Ramy. Thank you.
But I think, Tim, the beauty of it, it's just there on your phone. You don't have to download an app or go to download it. And operators in certain markets have agreed on a common name. I think in Japan, they named Plus Message, where they all agreed to name it the same thing. So you'll see markets that agree to use something fancy. Other markets will just say it's there, users are going to start discovering it. And actually the best way to start discovering is when they see their enterprises communicating and then, oh wait, why is there a card here with a button now and it's not 160 characters? It starts picking up more attention.
And also, let's forget, SMS isn't a particularly sexy name either, is it? So, right, got to move on. One last question, Indipal.
If I go to the Google Play Store, I find that Android Messages has more than 1 billion downloads. There are probably another hundreds of millions or maybe 1 billion pre-installed Android Messages. Yet, there are just about 500 million RCS users. So what's wrong in the ecosystem, and what you need to do so that the number of RCS users is the same as the number of Android Messages users? Just like an iMessage, if you have an iMessage, it just works. It works with iMessage as well as SMS. What all do you need to do to have that same experience from a user perspective? You open it up, it's Android messages, it just works on RCS.
I mean, just from our numbers, we've got RCS at about 1.4 billion. So somewhere 900 million have lost. So I don't know where that 500 million figure comes from.
Well, the 500 million figure comes from MEF, comes from GSMA, and it comes from Google. It comes from a number of sources.
I'll let you answer that one.
I think,
As he mentioned you.
Independent of the actual number, I think the question stands: what can we do to have even greater reach of the service? And I think, I mean, Google has clearly invested a lot in that very problem. Right? We work with OEMs all over the world. We work with carriers all over the world. We think we've developed a great client service that users love, and we continue to invest in that. We also launched, to promote that connectivity globally, a guest cloud, although you call it guest mode, Interpol. But we launched that service, to get the experience into the user's hands. And I think at this point in kind of the evolution, it's to take all the learnings from that and apply it with our carrier partners to launch the service more, to do more of the preloading and those type things that we have made announcements around in places like the United States. These are all efforts that we have and investments, quite frankly, that we have to further that service. So maybe we won't agree on what the actual number is, but we want that number to be larger, and we think we're investing heavily to that end.
Feel free to buy our report. Right, on that, we've run out of time. I can see that there's a few worried faces. Thank you for staying and listening. Guys, it's been a good conversation. Are you hanging around for a while? So if you do have any questions, you're a bit afraid to put your hand up. Are you hanging around for a little while so people can catch up with you? Yeah, they are staying. So panelists, thank you so much. It's been a really good conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have as well. So please give them a big round of applause. If you can leave that way.